Okay, hi, welcome to the second stream. I just need to check the audio to make sure that everything is working properly. Okay, I think everything seems to be working on Twitch. Okay, yeah, just need to check YouTube as well, just to be on the safe side. Yeah, I think it's also working well on YouTube. Yep, okay. So we are ready to go now. Let me take this off as I don't need it really. And okay. So yeah, again, welcome to my second stream of building my my TweetTextarea React component. As you can see, I have already created the GitHub repository that will actually include the project, and I pushed the document that we started working on last time to the repository, so you can actually go in there and look at it. Basically, it includes all the behavior that I've managed to find out basically in the Twitter input area. We started working on that in the last stream, but I actually continued working on it off stream and improved it a lot. So a couple of things that we were sort of not 100% sure what we're going to do about were the URLs, because as we said, like what Twitter considers as a URL is any basically text that includes that doesn't have spaces, of course, because URLs do not have spaces, but basically a URL has to include one of what is called a top-level domain. A top-level domain basically is the part of the domain which is this part. Basically, it's like the .com, .net, all of these are called .level domains. So we were thinking basically what exactly would be considered, like how exactly are we going to get these top-level domains, because there are like hundreds, maybe even more than hundreds of these top-level domains that are actually allowed. So I ended up finding this text file which seems to include all of the available top-level domains, and it gets updated on a daily basis. So as you can see, it was updated today, at 7 a.m. UTC time. So we're going to be pulling the fetching basically the data from that and adding it into our regular expression pattern that we're going to use when we actually start building the patterns. But yeah, that's we're not going to be doing that today. Going to be doing that later in not 100% sure if it's going to be the next stream or the one after. But yeah, the second thing that we were sort of struggling with a little bit was I found out that the Twitter input area actually highlights text that comes after the $sign. So we're not only talking about hashtags and user mentions, there were also something like if you type text, like what we found out like last time is like if I do this and start typing some text, it gets highlighted, but then it stops being highlighted sometimes, and I wasn't exactly sure what is happening here. So I actually researched that, and I found out that Twitter actually has something that is not as well known as the hashtags and user mentions, which is called cache tags. So if we like search for it, it's basically okay, it doesn't seem to be coming up. Let me actually look for it on Google, maybe I can find it. Yep, so apparently it was something that was unveiled back in 2012. I've missed it. I've actually never heard of it, but yeah, anyway, the cache tags basically are something that is used to highlight like stock symbols and share financial information and things like that. So yeah, anyway, I worked on that and tried to figure out exactly what do these cache tags do and how they work, and I figured that out, and I included again all of that in the document. To summarize, basically cache tags require a maximum of 6 alphabetical characters, so no numbers, no symbols, nothing. It has to be alphabetical characters. So as you can see, all of that is fine up to 6 alphabetical characters. So now we have 6. If I add another one, it gets deleted. If I remove one and add a number, again it's not highlighted. The only symbol that is allowed is like an underscore, and it's allowed as a suffix. So if you add, like, you have to have at least one alphabetical character after the underscore, otherwise it's not going to be highlighted. But yeah, as you can see, we can add up to 2 alphabetical characters. If we add another character, again it gets removed. If we add a number, it gets removed. If we remove one of the characters, again, and we add it has to be an alphabetical character for it to actually that suffix with the underscore can end up basically being highlighted by the Twitter input area. So again, like, if you're interested in actually all of the specifics, I have included all of them here in that document, which is available on the GitHub repository. I'll actually share the repository in the chat, so you can actually take a look at it, and like, if you're interested. So yeah, it's there now. You can actually check it. Give me 1 second. I think I need to adjust something with my webcam settings. 1 second. yeah, hopefully this is working better now, I think. Okay, so what we're actually going to do today is we're going to start basically building the not building the project, actually start like creating the project and doing the initial configurations for it, and we will install all the packages that we're going to need, at least for the initial setup. Then we're going to actually discuss what are we going to do for the testing, because as I said in the previous stream, I am actually going to follow basically a test-driven development style for this project, because like I am not too like pedantic about test-driven development, and I don't think it makes sense to actually follow it for every single project. But as I said in the previous stream, basically for this one, since we have well-defined behaviors, or like well-defined results that we actually want to achieve from our React component, it makes sense to actually build tests that check that whatever we do is actually achieving the required results, because without those tests, we'll actually have to, every change we make to the component, we'll actually have to test it ourselves to make sure that everything is working as intended. And yeah, so the tests will help us basically to give us this sort of comfort that our component is actually working as intended. So what we're going to do today is, once we configure the project and actually start have everything set up correctly as we want it to be, we will start actually adding the testing library that we're going to use, and then we're going to configure it as we want it to work, and we might start writing some of the tests depending on the time, really. So yeah, let's get rid of Twitter now, since we don't need it anymore. So yeah, get rid of it here. And let's go to here. So this is basically the local repository. As you can see, it has a bunch of like files and things like that I need locally, but the main file that we have here is the expected behavior markdown document that we've started creating. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create basically initialize the npm package, because as I said, the goal here is to create a component that will actually be published as an npm package that people can actually install and use in their React project. So I personally use Yarn, but you can use npm as well, so you can do npm init. Why? I just prefer using Yarn, so that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to start with that. Then once we go here, we'll find that we have the package.json. I'll change the name to just TweetTextarea. maybe add React as well. It already picked up the GitHub repository. It already picked up my name for the author. I am going to create 2 folders here that I am going to be using. So new folder, the source folder will include basically all the actual source file that we're going to use, and then the test folder is the one that will have the actual like the bundled package that is going to be published to npm for the users, for the npm users to actually be able to install it. So the first thing we need to do, because as I said, we are going to be, not actually sure if I mentioned that in the previous stream or not, but yeah, I am going, for this project basically I'm going to be using TypeScript because I enjoy working with TypeScript because of the type safety that it provides, and the, at least in the development stage, like for runtime of course it doesn't give you any type safety, but for the development it gives me basically a chance, like sort of saves me that like from making a lot of mistakes that I might make because of not actually working with the proper type. So what we need to do is we need to first, actually before I do that, I just need to do one small change, which is moving to the new version of Yarn. So so what I do is to actually do that, you need to do yarn set version berry, and with that I will need to create a file which is going to be yarn.rc, I think. .yarn.rc, and I need to actually tell it to use node modules rather than plug and play. I personally haven't started working with Yarn plug and play yet. I prefer to stick to node modules at the moment, just because it's what I'm used to. So yeah, I will let's just do yarn rc, and then we'll start typing node linker. I think it's node linker. Let me just find it quickly. Yeah, so it's node linker node modules, and yeah, that basically will tell Yarn to actually, the version 2 of Yarn, to actually continue using node modules rather than plug and play, at least for now. So what we need to do now is, as I said, we're going to be using TypeScript, and for the language and for the bundling, I'm going to be using rollup. It's what I used before and what I'm sort of comfortable working with. I know, like, some people use Webpack, but it's just seemed like a bit hard for me to actually use at the moment. I'll figure it out at one point, but for now I'm just using rollup and I'm comfortable using it. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I don't mind. By the way, most of what I'll be showing you today in how to start the project was actually inspired by this blog post. I'm not gonna pronounce the writer's name just because I think I'll butcher it, and I don't wanna offend anyone. So I'll just copy this blog post and share the link in the chat as well. And like it's a really good article, good blog post, and I've learned a lot from it. And this is what I'll be actually using. Not exactly, like I've sort of tweaked it a little bit, but it's the main inspiration for how I'm configuring this project comes from this blog post. So if you're interested, just give it a read. So what I'm doing is, I'll start by adding TypeScript, which is what I need, rollup, and I need the as you can see, I've already tested this before, so I need the TypeScript plugin for rollup, and I know that this plugin actually needs a package called tslib, which doesn't actually end up being installed automatically, so I just have to install it. And as you can see, I'm installing all of these packages as development dependencies, because we don't need, like, they're not going to be actually part of what the users need to have to actually use the component. Like we only need them for development purposes, so that's why I'm installing them as dependencies. So yeah, we'll do that. Okay, package doesn't seem to have what? Okay, this is a weird error. Home package.json. Okay, let me check quickly what is happening here. Okay. That is weird. Let's try removing it. I'm not sure why is it doing that. And then let's try okay, this is really weird. Like, it's this have never happened before. I think, like, yeah, some weird things are bound to happen live on stream, I think. So let's see, it's not there, so yeah. That is very strange. Let me see. I don't see anything different from what I had before. This is interesting. Okay, let me just check what this error is, because I haven't personally encountered that error before. Usage. I'm just checking. I'm checking this this error on my other monitor. Okay, maybe. Okay, let's do something. Let's actually remove all of this and try again. Okay, let's maybe start by doing that. And let's see if this... Okay, so when we do set... That's very strange because this never happened. I've never had that happen before. Just see if you have... Okay, I'll guess I'll just, for now, I am not 100% sure what is happening here, and I don't really want to spend a lot of time figuring this one out. I think the problem happens when we actually switch to the newest version of Yarn. So for now, let's just stick to the old version. Interesting. So now it seems to be using the new version. I'm really confused. Okay, let's test one more time. Seems to be actually using version 3, so that might be one of the reasons why things are not working as I expect them to. Modules and let's try one more time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's keep this here, and again C and package.json for now. And why does it have readme? I haven't actually created a readme, so let's remove it and let's try this classic. Let's see if it actually created. Yep. Sorry. Okay. Let's see if why. Okay. Okay. I think this should work now. We again will change. We change this to React, and let's see if we can fix this. Okay, yeah. So it seems to be an issue with the new version of Yarn. I haven't actually tried to tried this new version. The last version I tried was Yarn 2, so yeah, maybe that is the reason why it is giving me a bit of a headache. So yeah, as you can see, we've installed some of the things that we need, and the next thing that we need to do now is to actually start configuring TypeScript. So the simplest way to do that is to actually use the TypeScript compiler itself and just pass it the init flag, and what it will do is it will create a tsconfig file in tsconfig.json file that has basically most of the possible options in here. We need to change a couple of things. As you can see, each option actually tells us what it does. So for the target, I'll actually use ES5 just so it works on a lot of browsers that might not have the latest features of ES6. We'll also need to enable the JSX option, and which basically, as you can see from the comment here, it basically tells the TypeScript compiler what to do with JSX code. In this case, it will preserve, like with the setting as it is right now, it will preserve the JSX code as it is, which is not what we want. We actually want it to convert it to the React code. So it will take our JSX code and convert it into basically the equivalent from React that generates the actual components that we write. For the module, I know that from testing, basically, I know that rollup actually likes using ESNext, so that's what I'll be using. Then I will also enable the root directory setting, which basically is the directory that includes all of our source files. So that will be the source directly. Then enable the module resolution, which basically, again, as you can see from the comment, it tells the TypeScript compiler how to find files, and in this case we're telling it to use Node.js because that's what we're using. and we will skip all of these ones and come here to the emit part. We'll enable the declaration and declaration map options, which basically this is the d.ts files that are generated by TypeScript. If you want to actually know what these files do, you can go to TypeScript lang and documentations, or the handbook, I think, declaration files, and you can look basically at what these do, like read about it here, and like I'm not going to actually explain this fully, but yeah, anyway, like the compiler actually generates those for us. We also need the source maps, and excuse me, I just need to have a drink of water. One second. Yeah, I'm back. We'll enable the output directory, which again specifies where the generated files, the files basically that the compiler generates, go, and we want them to go into the dist files, dist4 directory. And I don't think, yeah, we don't need anything here. I also know that I found that this option can be helpful sometimes. As you can see, it basically allows me to use the import, basically a default import from modules that actually do not have a default export. So if you know, basically in JavaScript you can like we can type something like import React from React, for instance, and this is called like importing a default export, which is usually exported like that. So export default React, for instance. If a module doesn't have the export default, and a default export basically, and you try doing an import like that, like usually it wouldn't work, because you don't have, like, there is no default export. You have to export the actual named export. So in this case, like if like we can use something like that, but yeah, in this case the TypeScript compiler can actually allow these default imports from the modules that do not have a default export. The compiler can actually make it work. I'm not sure how exactly does it, but yeah, it does. So I'll use it just in case. I keep the strict type checking, and just to be safe, I tend to enable these three, so no implicit any, and strict null checks and strict function types. Again, you can actually read the explanation here to understand what they do. And we're not going to be using classes, but we might as well just enable these two in case we needed to do something. I'll also do the always strict no unused local and no unused parameters, so it warns us when we have something that we declared but we haven't actually used. And yeah, I think these are the ones that we're actually these are the settings basically that we're actually going to enable. I am going to include a couple of things here. So first we'll do an include and then tell it to include everything in the source folder, and then add an exclude and make sure that it doesn't try to compile anything from the dest folder or anything that basically has the pattern of .test.ts or .spec.ts, and these are going to be basically, these are the files that we actually use for testing. Again, when we're going to actually look into testing today, and we might actually start writing some tests. So for now, I just want to make sure that TypeScript doesn't try to compile any of our testing files, because we don't really need them to be compiled. We're just using them for our own sake, basically, to make sure that everything is working properly. So that is yeah, I think that is everything that I need in the TS configuration. Let me see what's the error. Yeah, it's warning us about the couple of things, like because we don't have any files up until now. It's just warning us that there's nothing for it to compile. So next, what we're going to do is we're actually going to configure rollup. So to do that, we need a file called rollup.config.js, again, which should be in our like root directory. So we'll create it, and we will import define config from rollup, and then we'll tell it to export default define config and call it with this. And again, if you want to actually, like, none of these of course are tutorials or anything. If you want to understand exactly what everything here does, you can actually look at the rollup documentation, and it will probably be here under the configuration file, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do. The reason you don't need to use the define config one. You can just export a default and a simple object, but the reason I use the define config one is that it actually gives me auto completion inside VS Code. So if I forget one of the options, or forget what is the exact name of the option, I can actually look it up. So I know that I need an input, which is going to be an index.tsx file. This is basically the entry point for our component, like that basically will start importing other modules and use different stuff from these modules. But this is the main file that we're going to use. So with rollup, you just need to provide the main entry point for the input. Then the output is usually an object. In this case, we need to output to a directory rather than just a file. So the directory we're going to use is the dest directory we created earlier. I think, yeah, exports, I'll tell it to use the auto option, which will decide how, if we look at here, just so I can actually use the exact explanation of it. Output dot exports, I can't see it. Yeah, it basically this defines the export mode to use. It defaults to auto, but I think when I was testing this, something wasn't working. If I technically I shouldn't need to include this, but I think when I didn't include it, I actually ended up getting an error. So I include it for now. And then we need to tell it to actually use source map, because if you remember in our TS config, we told it to export source maps here. Let me so yeah, as you can see, we told it to actually emit source map files, so we just need to tell it to do the same thing here. And I think that's everything I need. Yeah, no, we need to add the format. So again, we're telling it to use CommonJS here, and I believe yeah, we might as well use strict. And what else? The other thing we need here is plugins. So if you remember, we installed the rollup TypeScript plugin, so we actually need to tell rollup to use it. So to do that, we'll import TypeScript from rollup plugin TypeScript. And the way you actually use these plugins is you create just a JavaScript array, and you tell it to use this one, and just call it as a function, because technically these are functions. So that's what we're doing here. We're basically telling to call this as a function, and if we have other plugins that we've installed, we'll add them here as well. And we can provide some parameters, if we need to, but in this case I don't need to actually pass it any parameters. So let's now actually test our configurations to make sure that everything is working properly. Since we haven't installed React yet, I'll leave that for now. Let's just make it source .ts, and then we'll go to here and just index.ts, and let's try doing something, maybe const name string equal, and let's remove this, and let's do just console.log name. It's warning me about something, cannot read the clear. Oh, okay. So username, yeah, seems to be okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to package.json and add a couple of scripts. So we need start script, which is going to basically run rollup in watch mode, so it automatically keeps rebundling our files when we make any changes to the file. So to do that, we just call rollup.c, which basically tells it to look for a configuration file. We don't need to provide the configuration file, it will find it automatically. And then w, which tells it basically to use the watch mode. We will also add a build script, which basically uses the same command just without the -w, so it doesn't actually build it in watch mode. And let's see, why is TypeScript complaining? Not 100% sure. Let's actually test building. Yeah, seems to have worked. I'm not sure why TypeScript is complaining really. Anyway, if we go to this now, you'll find that like it created index.js with our variable username, and it created the declaration files, which basically again it declared our username variable as a string. So that's basically our configuration working. And now, yeah, as you can see now, the tsconfig file now is happy. I think sometimes it needs to actually run to make sure that everything's working. But yeah, we will delete this one because we're not going to be using index.ts, actually going to be using index.tsx, which we're going to create later once we actually install React now. So to install React, we need to again do that. Normally, of course, if you're building a React app, you'll install React and React DOM as like normal dependencies. But since this is a component that is going to be used as a plugin basically that users install to use in their React apps, so React and React DOM will be actually provided by the app that the user is building, so we don't need them to be installed as a regular dependency. So we just need them as a dev dependency for us to basically make sure that our component is working. But when the user installs the component from npm, we don't need it to install React, so we'll add it as a dev dependency. We'll add React DOM, and then because we're using TypeScript, so we'll add the types React and types React DOM. Yeah, everything seems to be okay. And if we go here now to the package.json, you'll see that basically we have types React DOM, and then React and React DOM. One thing else we need to do here is to add something called peer dependencies, which, because again, as I said, this is going to be a package that users will install, like need to actually install from npm for the React apps. So we need to tell the package manager that there are some packages that should exist for our component to work properly, and these packages are React and React DOM. Like the actual wording of what peer dependencies do is like, if we go to this, as you can see, having a peer dependency means that your package needs a dependency that is the same exact dependency as the person installing your package. This is useful for packages like React that need to have a single copy of React DOM that is also used by the person installing it. So like it's not going to be installed, like these packages are not going to be installed, but they're going to be defined as dependencies that the user will need to have for the component to actually work. So yeah, we'll just take React and React DOM and add them in here, because we need them to actually be installed so the users can actually use this package. And lastly, we'll add this option, which is the files, and basically pass it the test. So what we're doing here is we're telling basically npm that if the user installs our package, just install the files that are in the dist directory, and leave everything else off. Basically, don't install any of the other files that we have in our project. So I think that all looks good. We just need to do one more thing here. Now that we have React installed, we need to tell rollup that some of the dependencies that we're using shouldn't be bundled with the app. They're going to be provided by an external source, in this case like the React app that our user is going to be building when they actually install our component into the app. So to do that, we'll just tell it that we have some external, like some packages that are going to be provided externally, so don't bundle these packages into the app itself, into the bundle that rollup is going to create. And I believe we now have everything set up. So what we need to do now is go here and create our TSX app, and in here we'll do import React from React, and I think it's just warning us. Yeah, it's declared but never used. So what we're going to do now is, just as a test, we need to function. We'll create like a small function component that is just a header, and it's not going to take any parameters, and it's going to return a JSX element. So we'll just do h1 hello world. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we're now exporting this function component. We need to actually test it and see if our component is actually working. And to do that, we're going to actually create like a test app. It's not going to be bundled with our package or anything. It's not going to be even in the same repository because there's no need really. I'll just create it in a different in a different folder, different directory, and then I will import our component inside it to test it, and I'll show you how to actually do that. So the first thing, we will go here to just go back one level, and then we will yarn create React app test app and template TypeScript. So we're just creating like a regular React app using the create React app, but we're using TypeScript. And what we're going to do now is, while it actually creates the app, we need to rebuild our project, because if you remember, if we list the file in the dist directory, you'll find that basically the bundle that we've created before still exists. So if we go to dist here and look at the index, it still basically has username and console.log username, which is not what we want. We actually want to bundle our component. So if we do yarn build, yeah, everything now works really well. And now to actually use this component, we need to run this command. It's called yarn link. And if we show the help menu and actually look at what yarn link does, it actually creates a symlink for a package folder during development. So it's sort of it's like creating a shortcut for people who are on Windows. For people on Linux, you know what a symlink is. It creates sort of like a shortcut for a folder that you can actually import inside other projects to use as a regular package. Like you'll actually be able to do import, in this case header, from our package basically. So if we run that command yarn link and run it, it will tell us basically success registered TweetTextarea React, which if we go back to the package.json is the name of our package that we provided in the package.json file. And as you can see here, it tells us you can now run yarn link TweetTextarea React in the project where you want to use this package, and it will be used. So if we go here and go inside our test app and then do yarn link TweetTextarea React, again it tells us that it succeeded, and it managed to find the link package, and we will now be able to use it. Just one thing that I need to do before we actually can use it is I need to tell package.json that the main file, the main entry point is actually in the dist folder. So because before it said index.js, so it was going to look for index.js in the root directory of the package, and it doesn't exist there. So we need to tell it that index.js actually exists in the dist folder. So that's what we just did here. And now if we go and actually let's just no need to yeah, let's just add it here quickly, and we'll go here and just header and import header from it was called TweetTextarea React. So now we imported our component. As you can see, basically now that we have linked our package, we can actually just use it as it is. And to actually see that we can use it, so I'll just do yarn start, and if everything worked properly, we should see hello world in our React app, as you can see. So yeah, we now have hello world here. So let's test something else quickly, and just so everything basically I'll just run yarn start here as well, so our files are basically rebundled every time we make a change, so we don't have to actually change, basically rebuild everything ourselves. So let's say that instead of passing like text here, we want the user to be able to actually pass a text, the text that they want to show. So we'll just do export interface header props, and we will say title, and it's going to be of type string, and then in here we're going to use this, and then header props, and we then will use this title in here. And as you can see, immediately our basically React app tells us that the property title is missing from our header component, because now what we did here is basically we told our header component that to expect that there will be a title provided to it, and it's required. It's not an optional property. So to make that work, we need to actually just go here and quickly provide a title, hello from React, just instead of using hello world. So yeah, and as you can see, now it just says no issues found, and if we go to our React app, as you can see, now we have hello from React as we expected. Yeah, so now everything seems to be working. We're basically ready to actually build the component when we want to actually start building it. As I said, in this, like for this project, we're not going to actually start immediately building the component. What we're going to start doing instead is writing the required tests to actually define the expected behavior in a test format so we can actually be sure that our component is working while we're building it, and make sure that when we change it later or add new features or anything, it still basically works as expected. So yeah, it has been an hour and 10 minutes now, something like that. I'll just take a bit of a break, and yeah, I'll come back, and then we'll start discussing the test and what we're actually going to do. So yeah, it's gonna be like 5-10 minutes maximum, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, basically that's where we're at the moment. We managed to get our component building and bundled, and we managed to link it to our test React app, and as I said, now what we'll need next is actually to start looking into how are we going to write our tests. So for the time being, let's just do return. We're not going to let's just do this hello and delete this, basically just restoring everything we've had, and we'll go here again, just do this quickly, and yeah. Okay, so to explain what we're going to do with testing, I need to explain exactly what I want to do. When I was building the prototype for this component, what I found out is that the way I was building it, at least at that time, and we'll discuss how I'm going to approach building it in like building the actual component differently from the prototype, because since I built the prototype and since the first stream, I started having a lot of ideas on how I might approach this differently, and I think I have a good idea of what I'm going to do, and I'm hoping that it should work well, because I think it will simplify the process a lot. But to be safe, what I need to do is, because when I was building the prototype, basically what I noticed is that things can be a little bit different between different browsers and different devices. So on desktops, things work differently from mobile phones. On the desktop, things work differently from Chrome to Firefox to like on macOS to Safari. Like if someone is using macOS, then Safari works a bit differently. But yeah, in general, this is basically the idea, is that like we need to have some way to test how our component is going to work on different devices. So we're not going to be using unit testing for the component itself. We might write some unit tests for other stuff, but like for the component itself, we need basically end-to-end testing. And the two libraries that can actually work for us in this case, the first one is Cyprus. So if we look at Cyprus testing and go here, and basically it's like this is the end-to-end testing framework that we can install, and we can use it basically to write tests to check basically how our application is working on these browsers. But there's one problem here. That problem is I want people to be able to use that component on Mac OS and iOS devices. And as you can see from this, Cyprus do not actually support WebKit, which is what is used by macOS and iOS browsers. This basically leaves us with the second library, which is built by Microsoft, and it's called Microsoft Playwright. So yeah, this is the one. As you can see, again, it's end-to-end testing for modern web apps, and the main difference here is that it actually supports WebKit or Safari basically. So we'll be able to test our app or our component on desktop macOS and iOS devices. So this is basically what I decided that I'm going to be using for testing, because although I myself am not a macOS or an iOS user, I really would like people using macOS and iOS to be able to easily use the component, because the goal for me at least is to use this component in my web app that publishes threads to Twitter, and since people can use Twitter on macOS, it's not like something that is limited to desktop or Android phones or anything. You can use it basically on any device that you can imagine, at least on modern devices. Like, of course, if you're using like a very old device, you're probably not going to be able to use it. But yeah, anyway, the idea here is I want to be able to cover as many devices as possible, and to do that I want to have tests basically for as many devices as possible. And because Playwright is the library that seems to support almost all of the like devices and variations of browsers that I can think of, I will be this is the library that I'll be using. So let's actually get started with first installing it. So as we can see, it tells us basically to be able to use it, we need to run this. So here's what we're going to do. We'll just go here, and I will just run yarn at Playwright test, and we'll install it. And yeah, it should now install everything. Now we'll run this command yarn playwright install. This will install all the browsers. Okay, seems to have finished. Let's make sure that the dependencies are installed just in case. As I got that error before, so I just want to make sure that everything is installed and it should be working as expected. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually run our first test, just basically to make sure that everything is working as we expect, and we'll just use this template to make sure that our library is working, and then we'll actually start configuring it. And then we might like, if we have the time, we might actually write some of our own tests, but for now let's just make sure that everything's working. So in our source directory, we'll just add tests folder, and then in here we'll add index.test.ts. Then let's see, so we need to do import test expect from Playwright test, and then we'll do test basic test, and the testing functions for the Playwright library are usually written as async functions. So we're going to do that, and we're going to get the page, and in here, so we'll tell it to go to our local host because this is where our app is, and we're going to tell await page.go to, and then we'll add this here. So we have http localhost, and then we need to grab let's grab this. I think it's going to be h1. So I think what we can do is let's const header equal page.locator, and we should be able to pass it like regular CSS selectors. So if we say h1, it should actually work, and then we will tell it to wait expect header dot to exist, I think. Let's see, to be visible. Yeah, that is the one I need. And then again, await expect header to have text hello, and let's check if it's, yeah, just hello. Okay, then we save, and we just need to make sure basically that the library is working and we can actually test. So what we're going to do is run Playwright test. Yeah, see, it actually ran the test, and it passed. So it managed to actually go to this page and find our component and actually make sure that it exists and it's visible and it has the expected text. So now we know basically that the library is working. So we need to start configuring it. So this is what comes next. So we need to add a configuration file, the playwright config.ts in our case. So that's what we're going to do, and playwright.config.ts, and then we'll import from playwright test, and I think config, I can't remember. Yeah, playwright test config. Yeah, it was there. Yeah. So yeah, let's Playwright test config, and we're going to import devices because this is what we're going to use to actually tell Playwright to actually test our project or our app on as many devices as possible. So to do that, we'll do export. No, it's just we define it. I think we still we export. We end up exporting it. So yeah, Playwright test config and equal, and then let's, so we don't forget it, let's add this here, and we have to const. So here's what we need to do. We're not going to actually use this exact configuration. What we are going to do is we are going to go here and yeah, and then we're going to start actually using some of these options basically in our configuration file. Just looking for some because okay, so use, and then in the test info object, okay, this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something. Is there something else here? This one, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's start actually doing this. Yeah, it has the base URL, so we're going to tell it to again go to HTTP localhost 3000, which basically has our test app running. The reason why we define it here, so we can actually in the test file, instead of each time typing this, we can just say go to the root or the base basically, and it will just directly go to it. And if we had some other pages, like, which we're not gonna have in this case, but if we had, like, let's say a settings page or something like that, we can just go here, instead of having to type every time localhost colon 3000 then slash settings. In this way, basically, because we defined the base URL, we can just type slash settings. When in our case, again, we don't have any other pages, it's just the root or the home page or the index page, so we can just tell it to just slash. Let's see if there's anything else we need to define here, because I don't think in this case we need to yeah, we can tell it headless too, so it doesn't, what this option does basically is it tells like this is the default setting, but just to make sure that we're defining it here, what we're doing is we're telling Playwright, don't actually show the browser to us. Instead, just run it in the background and make sure that the tests pass, and then just report the results for us. Let's look here. Just launch. Look. For now, these are all the options we need in this case. So let's look at the other configurations that we have. We don't really need, like, keep in mind, like, Playwright is a really big library, and there are a lot of things that, like, you can actually configure with it. I am not going to be really using it to its full potential. I just need something that works for me, and in my case, and then we can expand on it later. So in this case, the only option from the test run options that we need is the projects, and the projects basically is where we're going to define our devices that we're going to use. So this is the most important option for us in here. So what we're going to do is just type projects and make an array, and then we'll define basically all of these projects as just objects. So we'll start by name Chrome, and then we'll tell it to use, and this is where we will use our devices. So we'll do devices, and here, and look at the desktop Chrome, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do the same for Firefox. So and let's actually make this just Chrome, and Firefox. And as you can see, like, it has also a high DPI version. We're not gonna need that in our case. Like, it might be needed for, like, other instances where we maybe need to test if how the layout of the app differs on, like, normal screens and high DPI screens. But in our case, it doesn't matter, because this is not really what we're interested in. So we will then go here and add edge, since we can also test Microsoft Edge, and then we need to do WebKit, which basically is Safari. So this covers all the desktop browsers that we can test, and with Chrome, I'm assuming that this generally would cover all the other Chromium-based browser like Brave and Chromium itself, so we should be covered here. So let's just again rerun our test to make sure that everything's still working, and you'll see something interesting in this case. Let me actually stop running this now, because we're not actually doing any changes. So we'll do this. Oh, sorry, we haven't defined. Let's actually define the test command, and do this test and run play Playwright test. Instead of having to type every time we run Playwright test, we can just type yarn test. And as you can see, the interesting thing here is, although we only have one test here, what happened is this test actually ran 4 times, one basically for each of the browsers that we have defined in our configuration. And this is really the power of a library like Playwright, or Cyprus for that matter. Like, you would be able to do a similar thing, I'm sure, on Cyprus. It's just like with Cyprus, you won't be able to test Safari browsers. So that is the only reason why I chose Playwright, as I said before. But yeah, as you can see, we ran this basically on all of the browsers that we define. But all of these are just desktop browsers. We now need to actually look into doing the same on mobile phones. Sorry, I just lost the thread there a little bit. So let's go back to here and actually go to the projects section and see if they have any way to tell us how we can actually test that. It doesn't have here. Emulation, yeah. So yeah, here we go. So no, it doesn't have. Devices. Let's look at the Playwright devices, maybe. Returns a dictionary of devices. Okay. Let's see if it has anything in here on how to actually test mobile phones. Okay, yeah, I can't seem to find the actual documentation for it, so I will try to remember it myself. Then let's test this. I think we write the name and then we type the browser. Oh no, we type use, and in here we type browser name, and then we tell it WebKit, and then we use the devices, and in here let's say we're looking for iPhone, and let's see all the iPhone devices that we can run. So yeah, we have basically up to iPhone 6. So here's what we're going to do. We will basically name this like that because we need to actually run this on different browsers basically. So Chromium, yeah, and then do that again. Firefox, and yeah, that should be it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy all of this and repeat the same thing for other iPhone devices, just to be safe that they are actually running on all iPhone devices. So I'll do this iPhone 6 with iPhone 7 global, and then I think this is actually called iPhone 7 or something like that. Yeah. And then let's see, what do we have next? iPhone 8. So do the same here, and then V20J. Let's change iPhone 7 with iPhone 8 globally. Do the same for iPhone 10. So V20J. And then V20K. Let's do this here. iPhone 8. Change it with iPhone X10. Y20K and iPhone 11. And then no, not this. Okay. So yeah, we've basically added devices for all of the possible iPhone versions. There's an iPhone XE or SE. I don't really think we need to actually test for it. I'm assuming everything would be the same. To be honest, I don't think we really need to test for all of these, but just to be safe, to make sure, like, as you can see, like, it seems that our okay, so it seems that for some reason Firefox is not supported. At least for testing purposes, we cannot run tests on Firefox on iPhone. I'm not sure why. Let's see the options is mobile, and why is it not supported by Firefox? So let's go to the advanced, and this will be in here. How can we find it? Let's go to the API. Playwright. Test config. Where's test config? Should be, yeah, this one. Test config. .use. See available options. Yeah, is mobile. Other tags taken into account on touch events. Yeah. This is not supported in Firefox. So to test on mobile phones for Firefox, not sure how we're going to do that. We're going to have to figure out if there's a way to actually test it. So we remove the Firefox mobile configurations from here. So we need to do this. Undo 1 second. This and this. Okay, so let's run our tests again to make sure that everything is working properly. And yeah, as you can see, we literally if we wanted to test and make sure that our app, and again in this case it's a very simple app, we're not doing anything complicated, we're not really expecting it to not work on any of these devices, but for our actual component would probably, like, some things are not going to work as we expect them to, and when they don't, and we find out these tests will actually help us and basically let us know that our app is working or our component is working as expected, without having to go to each of these devices and test them ourselves. We're probably gonna do some manual testing as well anyway when we're building the component to make sure that everything is working properly. But again, this sort of saves us a lot of time, because for instance, I don't have, I think I only have an iPhone 11 lying around somewhere, but to be able to actually test on all of these devices, because there are still some people who are using iPhone 6, some are using iPhone 7, it's not something that is not expected. yeah, you'll find some people are still using some of these older iPhones, and if I want to make sure that the component is working on these older versions of the iPhones, I need to actually test it manually, or using something like Playwright or Cyprus or something like that. I test it on mobile phones to make sure, as well as desktop browser, of course. But yeah, now we sort of feel safe, like, okay, this app that we've built, it's working fine. It's a test app. Again, we're not expecting it to not work anyway, but when we build the component, we'll actually see how beneficial having all of these configurations or projects set up for us to actually test on all of these devices. Let me just go back here and to make to basically make that clear. 1 second, undo and add it here, add it here, and add this here. Okay, let's also try adding some Android devices, because again, I need to make sure that the app is working on Android as well. So in this case, let's see what Android devices are. Browser name, again, we use Chromium. We're not going to use Firefox as well, because I'm assuming the same thing will happen. We'll test it anyway, to make sure that it's not working. But yeah, let's see. So we have a lot of Galaxy devices. Wow, there are a lot of okay, so to start with, I'll test on the Galaxy devices and the Pixel phones. I think that should be fine for now, and then we'll see if we need to add any more devices later. But yeah, Note Galaxy Note 3 Chromium. Let's actually copy this and make this Firefox. Again, my assumption is that this is not going to work. So I just need to see, because I think the is mobile option is still not going to be working even on Android devices. Yeah, okay. So that just tells us we don't need to test for this. So let's see, what else do we have here? Galaxy Note 2, and Galaxy S3. Let's add S3, and I think we have undo Galaxy S5, S8, S9 Plus. Okay, so S5. S8 S9 plus actually let's just do this. Let's see. Okay, so I think let's add the tab S4 tab S4, and again let's just do a quick run. Great, so yep, everything is working. I'll add the Google Pixel phones as well, and we'll stop with the configurations for now because I think we basically understand the idea now. There's no need to test for every single possible device at this moment. We'll probably end up doing that, but just for now I think these should be enough. So we have Pixel 2, I think Pixel 3 next, Pixel 3 and Pixel 4. Oh, and we have 4a as 4 and 4a. Okay, that's fine. Pixel 3 as 6G. Yeah. Pixel 5. Okay. So yeah, again, as you can see, we're just running all of these tests on all of these devices. Again, it's just a simple test, but we're running it on all of our devices, and yeah, everything seems to be working perfectly. So the last thing I'm going to do, because we've been I've been streaming for 2 hours, and I'm a bit tired. It has been a bit of a long day at work, so I will write one test that's going to be failing, and then we'll make that test pass, and then starting from the next stream we'll actually write all of the tests that we're going to have, and then one by one we're going to start trying to make them pass, to make sure that everything is working properly. But I'll show you how we're actually gonna just write one test and make it pass. It's gonna be a very simple test. We're not gonna do anything complicated, and then yeah, we'll leave it here, we'll leave it there today, and yeah, we'll come back to it later. So yeah, let's first actually go here, And actually, let me do one thing first. We go to index.tsx, and then let's just type TweetTextarea. We'll change the name of our component into TweetTextarea because that's actually the name of the component that we want to use. We need to go back here to actually keep this running, and we'll go here, change that into TweetTextarea, and then we're going to basically remove everything in here because now I don't want to have all of these unnecessary stuff added. Yeah, we're not gonna use any of that. And let's go here to our running app, and as you can see, basically it just says hello. That's what we expected. It's a header. But yeah, let's actually just close this. We don't need it now, and we'll go back to here and look at the test that we have. So one thing we'll do here is we'll run this before each, because for every test we need to go to the main page of the app. So instead of having to type it for every one of the tests that we're going to have, we'll just type it once, so we don't have to type it for the other tests. So we'll use the before each hook, and then tell it page go to, and we'll just go to the row. And then our first test is going to be, we'll actually write 2 tests today, but yeah, our first test is going to be the tweet text area with ID let me think what I want to call this. Content, let's just content editable div with the ID equal editor should exist. And then we'll type an async function that takes the page, and then we should have page.locator, and we need to find div with the ID of editor, and then let's just type this const editor equal page.locator. And then we actually forgot to do this here. We need to wait until it actually navigates to the page, otherwise it will start looking for this, and the test will fail. So page locator div hash editor, and then we expect editor to be visible, and we expect editor to have attribute content editable. For some reason Okay, I'll need to look at how to we'll await here, await, and let's see how the because I can't remember well the matches. Okay, let's look here. So, let me try to find it. Okay, let's go to the documentation. Let's just search for it. To have attribute. Yeah, it takes a name and a value. So content editable and should be true. Okay, I think it needs to be text, I'm assuming. Okay, let's just test to see. Again, we're expecting that these tests will fail. Yeah, as you can see, they are all failing. That's what we expect, really, because at the moment our component actually returns just an h1 element. It doesn't return a dev. That dev doesn't have like the ID editor. It doesn't return anything of what we told it to expect, basically, in our test. So yeah, we'll wait until it finishes all of them. Yeah, as you can see, everything failed. That's what we expected. So yeah, let's actually now try to make that test passes. So we'll do return div id equal editor and then content editable and then this. And let's go to our and just for now, so we can actually see it properly, what I'm going to do is style, and we're going to add some padding, 1 em, and then border solid, it's just solid 1 px black, and we'll pass it as a style here, and okay, I think we can maybe add this. Let's see, CSS properties. Yeah, seems to be working fine, just for the sake of it. And yeah, as you can see, okay, so yeah, our content editable div now exists. So let's try running. Actually, let me just check something quickly. Yeah, it has content editable with the true as just text. So if we look at our tests now, basically both of these should be passing, so all of our tests should be passing. So if we do that, let's see. Okay, Yeah, perfect. So we've written our first test, and it actually passes. So we'll just write one more test, and again it will fail initially, and then we'll make it pass. So let's start this test now. So you can the editor accepts user input. So, and then we'll type this page, and then const editor page dot locator, again dev dot editor, and then we will do await editor dot type, and then let's say hello from TweetTextarea, and then we will do this await expect editor to have text, and then we'll just copy this, and then again, as we said, this test is going to fail. As you noticed last time when we ran it and we expected it to actually fail, oh no, wait, this actually is going to pass. It's not going to fail because we've already made the dev editable, so user input should actually work. So when we run this, it should actually, yeah, it passes. So yeah, we've already have two tests that we can run, and they're both passing. They're both doing what we expect from our component, which is amazing. Like, as you can see now, we're running 56 tests because we're running two tests across 28 devices, and yeah, as we can see, they are all passing. Everything's working perfectly. There are ways to run only specific tests or only specific like devices. We might look into that later when we actually start, like in the next stream, when we start adding a lot of tests, because like it takes a little bit of time to run all of these tests across all of these devices. So we might want to consider only running some of them sometimes, and yeah, leave running all of them just like every now and then, like run all of them every now and then, just to make sure that everything's still working across all of these devices. But yeah, for now, we've basically completed setting up the project. We've set up the TypeScript compiler, the bundler. We started looking into our tests. We have a test app running that actually uses our component. So, and yeah, as I said, like we have two tests that are already written and already passing. This is like this is really good. We've come so far in today's stream, but there's still loads of work that we have to do in the next streams, because basically in the next one, we really need to start converting all of these expected behaviors into tests that we need to actually run and make sure that by the end of our test, by the end of next stream, we'll have most of them, if not all of them. They will all be failing, of course, because unlike today, we're not going to try and make each one of them pass one by one. We'll just write them, have them written, and start basically working on them one by one, and hopefully depending on which approach we're going to take, which is something that, as I said, we're going to discuss that later, we'll see how long it takes us to actually get to the point where all of these tests are passing on all of our devices that we have configured. But yeah, that will be it for today. I am not going to be streaming tomorrow because it's going to be New Year's Eve. So yeah, I wish you all a happy New Year, and yeah, enjoy it. And I hopefully will see you after basically the New Year. So see you in 2022. Have a good evening, have a good night, or good afternoon, depending on where you are exactly in the world and what time it is now. And yeah, see you later. Bye bye.